Welcome to the Film Trooper podcast with your host, Scott McMahon.
Hi, and welcome to Film Trooper, filmmaking freedom for the independent, and I'm your host, Scott McMahon, as you just heard in the intro. And this podcast episode is sponsored by the book, How to Make and Sell Your Film Online and Survive the Hollywood Implosion While Doing It. It's available as a paperback, in a Kindle ebook or an iBook, as well as an audiobook. In fact, you can get the audiobook for free when you sign up for a 30-day trial with audible.com. Just go to survivetheimplosion.com for all the details. Now, the tagline for Film Trooper is filmmaking freedom for the independent. And when I talk about the freedom aspect, it's really that, is to be free of any dependency on anything or anyone, which is really embracing the spirit of, being a true independent. So it's just you and you alone, or you and a small team that have banded together that have one thing in common: grit, perseverance, and hustle. And I can't think of a better guest to have returning with us to talk about the hustle, and specifically the hustle of what it takes to make a micro-budget film and how to sell it, than Alex Ferrari of Indie Film Hustle. It's right there in his name, Indie Film Hustle. Now, some of you may have remembered Alex from episodes number 86 and 87. It was a two-parter because once I met him and once we were talking, we just couldn't stop talking. Or let me say, I couldn't stop Alex from talking. And I say that with all, fun, because since I've met him, having come on the show, we talk like almost every week, and he's become a very good friend of mine, and together just, talking about independent film and how we can, help others and help each other and all the stuff that we're trying to do moving forward in this ever-changing digital landscape. And so it's really exciting to have him come back and return to the show to share with us this new project he's working on, and we can dig deeper on what it means to make a micro-budget film, and then eventually how to sell it, how to market and sell it. And if you know Alex on his site, on Indie Film Hustle, this is the stuff he just, thrives at. And that's one thing I've noticed. I've seen him come onto the scene, and I've seen him apply so many different marketing strategies and techniques to great results. And I'm learning a lot from him, and I hope you too will learn a lot from this episode. So without further ado, here's my guest, Alex Ferrari from Indie Film Hustle, here on the Film Trooper podcast. Tell me about This Is Meg. What is this film, and why do you want to make this?
Well, This Is Meg is a reaction to 20 years of trying to make a feature film, to be honest with you. I was attached to another project a little while ago, and it kind of fell apart. And I've been attached to many projects in my career that fall apart. And I finally decided to make something on my own. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh, well, a lot of people do that, Alex. Why did it take you so freaking long to figure that out? Well, the thing is that there's a reason why I don't have, 40 short films or, 3 or 4 features under my belt, because I always have a level of quality that I always like to have on my projects. And also, I always put a tremendous amount of obstacles in front of me. So I made making a feature film this huge, monstrous, epic thing. Like, it's a feature film. Like, it's this monstrous thing. And I finally decided, I actually called up a friend of mine, a filmmaking friend of mine, and I told him what happened with the project. And he's like, dude, you should look up a couple of directors and see what they're doing. And I'm like, well, who are they? And it was just Joe Swansburg, Lynn Shelton, and Mark Duplass. And I'm like, all right. And I'd heard of them, but I never really studied what they did and how they did it. And they came from the mumblecore movement, which is basically just grab a camera, don't care about any technical aspects whatsoever, and just make a movie. Yeah. And I started watching some of these movies. And again, these movies were done in 2007, 2008 with, really low budget video camera stuff. But I just kind of saw the freedom that they had. And it kind of, I had an epiphany. I'm like, wait a minute. Why in God's green earth am I throwing all these obstacles in front of myself to make a feature film? Like, why don't I just go grab a good camera? There's a lot of great ones out there that are affordable. Hell, I own one. It's a Blackmagic. It's not 5K or 25K or whatever it is now. It's, it's a nice, good quality camera. I've got a lens package that I have, and I'll just start building out the package to see what I need, with a full full cage and full mics and everything like that. So I was like, why don't I just kind of try to do this myself? And with that moment, I wrote 5 treatments of movies that I want to make over the course of the next few years, because I got obsessed. I'm like, oh, now I'm just going to make 2 movies a year. I'm like, it's complete opposite. It takes 10 years to make a movie before, and now I'm just going to pop them out. So I came up with the idea for This Is Meg, with Jilly Michelle Millian in mind. Jilly is the star of the movie. Jilly and I go way back. We've known each other for almost 8 years now, and we've done a lot of projects together, shorts, music videos, commercials, and other things. And there's a trust there between us. So when I called her up, and she's an actress who's been on Reno 911 and Mad TV and a bunch of different. She's a seasoned actress who's done a lot of different roles. And I called her up. I'm like, hey, do you want to make a movie? And this is the way I want to make it. And here, watch these movies as reference to how we're going to make this movie. And she's like, it took her probably about 10 seconds to say, yeah, sure, let's do this. I'm like, great. And we just caught ourselves in the right place at the right time. I'm in the right moment and headspace to where I am. She's in the right moment and headspace where she is. And there's a trust there that doesn't come overnight. So that's something that I've been nurturing over the last almost 8 years relationship. So I said, well, why don't you call your friends? And she has a lot of amazing acting friends. And she cast the whole movie. Probably within 3 or 4 days. Basically, she just called me like, hey, we're making a movie. We need you for a day. Come out. They're like, okay. And it just kind of worked that way. So within 3 or 4 days, we had pretty much a ridiculous cast. And now I know you're going to ask me the question, Alex, well, how did you write this script?
Actually, I was going to ask you about, it's interesting that you mentioned about the barriers we put upon ourselves.
Oh God!
It's like,
yes.
As adults, you've probably heard this before, but it's like we actually have to do so much to unlearn things in order to move forward.
Yep.
And I'm imagining, like you said, like your level, like looking at your short films in the past. I mean, their production quality and the production level is really high. So it's like your vision's probably like, I'm making something big here. So the concept of big feature film was always there, but like you said, becomes like a weight on you for a while. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did a short film called Red Princess Blues. That short film cost me north of $40,000. It's absurd. It's absurd that I spent that much money on it. It's absolutely absurd.
But not back when, what was that?
2010. It's not like it was like, back in the 90s. No, it was like freaking 2010. I shot on a Red 1. The Red Epic had just been released. I didn't get a chance to get on it, but it was shot on a Red 1. I had an obscene cast. I had an obscene crew, a lot of favors, and it still cost me. It was just such a bloated project. It was so bloated, but the material called for it. It was a very stylistic, very big, comic booky, just big world. I literally was creating a world, and I was attempting to do something big. And you know what? Sometimes you attempt to do something big, and sometimes you make it, and sometimes you fail. I really enjoy the film. I would do things a million times differently today. I think all artists will say the same thing, generally speaking. But it kind of showed me, and I really done, I think, maybe 1 or 2 other little projects on narrative, like my own projects since then. And I really just kind of, it was always this big thing. Like every time I have to do something, I'm always swinging for the fences. And I think a lot of filmmakers have that swinging for the fences mentality where if I make this one short, that's the one that I'm going to get called by Hollywood and I'm going to go make, the next Marvel movie because that's how it worked for some other guys. Or I'm going to make this feature and it's going to win Sundance and now I'm off. And they kind of swing for the fences and they put so much pressure on the projects and so much pressure on those films and on themselves that it affects those movies. And what I learned from Joe Swansburg, from Lynn Shelton, and from Mark Duplass is that they didn't have those pressures. They completely didn't care because they didn't come from a filmmaking background, generally speaking. They came from, they weren't professionally taught. So they just kind of grabbed the camera and ran with it. And then they learned along the way. And that freedom allowed for them to do some really cool stuff. And their work is not for everybody. Like, it's not supposed to be. It's not a mass marketed film. They're niche art house movies, but they began to build momentum. And then now all three of them have very good careers directing. Lynn directs television shows and does her features on the side. Mark Duplass is, huge right now. He's acting and he does production. And Joe just keeps making movies. Like, I think one year he made 6 feature films. 6 feature films in a year. So he literally just didn't care. You could just tell he's like, just screw it. I'm gonna. And he actually said this in an interview. He's like, nobody's paying attention to me, so I'm just going to become prolific. So eventually someone's going to notice me. He's made like 30 feature films in 10 years. Like, it's obscene the amount of movies he was able to make. And he was selling them. He was selling them to IFC. He was making a little bit of money, and then he actually broke down in an interview like how much he made per movie. And the reason why he had to make so many movies is to make a living, because he was only making like 10 grand a movie, and that's not enough to sustain his family. So he's like, I got to make 6 of these just to have some money to, pay the bills. So I think those obstacles are so damaging. And I think in a lot of ways, like I was telling you earlier, Scott, that I feel like I'm back in film school. Mm-hmm. I'm a film student again. The world is kind of like opened up, because when I stop to look, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many tools at my disposal. Why am I freaking out? Why do I have to have the best camera or the best this or the best that? You have to have a certain level of quality, and understand that camera. So if you have a 5D, understand the limitations and the capabilities of that camera and do what you can with that camera. Right for that camera, right for the scenario that you have. This is not new information. Robert Rodriguez was preaching this back in 1991, 92, when he did El Mariachi. He's like, well, I wrote a script around everything I had. I had a Mexican town, I had a turtle, I had a dog,
had a bus.
I had a police station, I had a bus, and I just wrote everything around it. It's not complicated, but what Robert did he did it in an action movie back in the day, but now you could just, it doesn't have to be this big monstrous thing. Just make a small movie. And that's what This Is Meg is. This Meg is a small story about what it takes to be, how someone who's been famous, a little famous, how she's struggling to make a living, to get work in an ever-changing landscape. I mean, you and I both, we live in the filmmaking space, and how often does that change? Daily now? Like, it's like every other day, something new. Like Amazon, all of a sudden you could just distribute on Amazon for nothing. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and all, you could just upload to VHX or Gumroad and start selling your movie directly to your audience. Like, these are all new things that's happened in the last 5 years. So things are changing constantly. So her struggle is this ever-changing landscape as well, where now YouTubers who have no acting chops or talent other than, making funny videos on YouTube, they try to translate that to feature films or network shows or things like that, where it doesn't work. Just because they have 100 million followers or whatever it is, doesn't make it, and like, so perfect example is, Meg is a girl who's been around for, let's say, 15 years, has obscene credits, has worked, has paid her dues, and yet the 18-year-old who has 1 million or 2 million followers on YouTube is getting jobs that she would get normally, or getting opportunities that she can't get because she doesn't have those followers. The world is changing. So that's her struggle the entire movie. And generally speaking, the whole theme of the story is how to let go and not hold on so tight, which I think is a lesson that it's mirroring my life. That's one of the reasons why I want to tell the story, is because I've held on so tight for 20 years on, like, I've got to make it this, I got to do this, I've got to do this, I got to make this movie big, I got to this, and it's done nothing for me. And finally, I've decided to just let go. And the second I let go, all of this started flowing in. And I don't want to get metaphysical on you, but
I made the cube. I think it's pretty metaphysical, but keep going.
Okay, that's very true. It's very true. But all this stuff just opened up, like, literally from the moment I had the idea, within 3 weeks we had a script. And I'll explain that process in a minute.
Yes, please explain.
And then within a week or two after that, I had a cast. And then within 3 weeks of that, I'm shooting. So that's crazy. And like, even me and Jilly, just both, because Jilly's, she's never been a lead in a feature film before. She's worked on a lot of features and things like that, but She's never been the lead in one. And she looked at me the other day and we were just kind of shooting, our first scenes together for This Is Meg. And we just looked at each other like, are we making a movie? Like, is this really happening? Like, why is this so easy? Like, we don't understand. Like, everything is just flowing, where I've never been on a project like that in my life. It's always been this struggle, hardcore, like, kind of uphill battle, because you put all of that on you. And when you kind of liberate yourself from the outcome, then it just becomes so much more freeing, and the work is better. You're happier. Everything becomes much easier. Again, tomorrow, if I get called to do a Marvel movie, this mentality is not going to work. It's a completely different world. But at the stage of my career that I'm in, it makes perfect sense. It makes absolute, and I will always want to come back to kind of these movies regardless, just like Josh Wheaton did after Avengers. During post of Avengers, he made Much Ado About Nothing at his house with a bunch of his friends, and that's freaking awesome. Like, I can't believe he did that. In the middle of the biggest movie of his career, he's like, you know what? You guys start editing. I'll be back. He went off and shot for like 2 weeks, and that's it. And he had another movie to edit, and it was just brilliant. So I'm babbling.
No, I want to know, like, so what kind of quality, or in terms of, like, you're coming from, like you said, knowing all this experience, all this background, knowing like how movies are supposed to be put together, and here you are putting together a film so quickly, and the writing process is a little different. So how are you adapting to this sort of outline format? Can you kind of explain a little bit more about the story process, the writing process for this particular project?
For this particular project, I'm taking a page from Woody Allen, from John Cassavetes, from Mark Duplass, Joe Swansburg, and Lynn Shelton. All of them all have in common that they all just basically, and Curb Your Enthusiasm, they all just kind of have outlines of scenes. So there's a very strong structure of the movie there, but each scene has points that you have to hit in the scene, and then you just ad lib. And you just go off, and because of that, and because you really don't know what's happening, as far as like, I don't know what the actor's going to say. So the energy is present. You're in the moment. I know this sounds nuts to a lot of people, but it's worked for many, many people over the years. And if you get the right people with you, it could become really fun. So Curb Your Enthusiasm, any fans of Curb Your Enthusiasm out there, the entire show was written like this. Like, he literally just did ad lib and just go off on things, and he would find it in the editing room. And that was the process. That was the process of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And there were some jokes that were written and things like that, but generally speaking, it was all very outliney. So one of the biggest obstacles in my way was always the screenplay. And I completely believe that you can't ad lib Chinatown. It's not. There's certain things that you can't do with those kind of movies, but this kind of movie, it makes sense. If I would sit there for another 6 months to write a script with Jilly and write the dialogue, I wouldn't be able to move nearly as fast, because the actors would have to be remembering dialogue and working it and not being in the moment. It's just kind of a weird thing. Like Mike Lee, who's an amazing director, he never writes anything. He actually structures it all out, then goes into rehearsal with the actors for a month and literally just records what they say in rehearsal. And so it sounds very natural. Yeah. And that's his process. So, Mark Duplass, when he did Puffy Chair, completely ad-libbed the entire movie. Like, they just had a structure. Boom, 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 boom. Lena Dunham does the same thing. I mean, I'm not breaking new ground here. What I am going to try to do is take the quality level of a low micro budget movie to a place that maybe has not been. And that's my goal as a filmmaker, as a technical filmmaker, to do that, and see what I can do and push the technology and push myself in a way that is that I've never been pushed before. As you saw that picture of me on set with the first day, my rig's pretty stupid. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I want to ask you, because I have my past podcast guest and a friend of mine who's a cinematographer, a DP, Bryce Fortner, he did like the first 4 or 5 seasons of Portlandia up here in Portland. So that's very much like structured that way. A lot of outlining, a lot of just riffing between Fred Armisen and Carrie Brownson. And so I was, getting a little behind the scenes of how they had a covered, controlled coverage for that. They had like a lot of cameras going on. The first season was all shot in like a 5D, like just multiple 5Ds. I was wondering, knowing that you're going to have like sort of an let's say improvise, because you have the talent, the cast that's in this is what they do.
Yes.
And I was curious by the technicals, filmmaker with being one camera, your editing is going to be interesting, because if you don't, how are you tackling the coverage once it gets into multiple actors, where you're only with one, like I said, with one camera versus like many cameras, and how is that going to affect the stylistic editing? Or like, have you already foreseen kind of where that will go?
I'll let you know on Monday. I know I'm talking like a crazy man here, but I'm just going to see how it works. I have my first scene with another actor besides Jilly. We have 3 actors in the scene, 2 major, and then 1 comes in and out on Friday, this Friday coming up. And I'm curious myself. I have an idea in my head. I would love to have 2 cameras. It would be nice to be able to cover it, and it would be an instant cut. But I think the limitation of 1 camera will make things more interesting for me, and I think for the actors too, because if they come up with a good riff or a good improv, then I'll have them like, look, go back to that improv, do it a little bit again, and then so I can get coverage of the other person, and so on and so forth. Because these guys are professional, and again, I'm using the assets I have. These guys are all super improv, like, I'm talking about decades of improv. So I know that they can hit beats again and again and again and again once they hit them. So I'm not that concerned with it. If it was a bunch of actors I had no idea who they were or have no experience improv, I would be much more nervous than I am. But because of the quality of cast that I have, I'm just kind of let it flow. And I've told every actor, I go, look, your performance is a highway. And it's a wide highway. So you can bounce around that highway as much as you want, but there are off roads. And if you go off road, I'll pull you back in. And that's all you have to do. So they have a big amount of freedom within the box that the story and the scene allow. So I'm not going to let them go completely off crazy. It has to stay within the vision of what we're trying to achieve with the story and the theme and the vibe, which is this is basically a dramedy. It's not a hardcore comedy, it's a dramedy. So a lot of these guys are stand-up comics, comedians, things like that, and I told them we're not playing it for the joke. The jokes will come. I have no problem that jokes will come, and this is going to be a funny movie, as well as a raw and endearing and kind of movie as well. But there's no need to rush or push jokes, because it's like telling Robin Williams, like, don't be funny, but he's always, something comes out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe Robin did, he did have his serious moments, but even then, like even Good Will Hunting, those jokes, the natural stuff that comes out.
Yeah.
It just comes out and you can't write it. So that's the mentality I have with this. And I'll know, like I was telling you earlier, like I just brought back all my footage from the first day. It all worked, everything worked. My systems all worked. The post workflow worked. It worked well. I color graded it. And as far as the coverage is concerned, as far as lighting, because I'm also the cinematographer on this movie, because I'm nuts.
Yeah.
The lighting scheme is going to be very lighting for the scene and not for the individual. And then maybe sometimes I'll go in, I'll move a light a little closer for maybe some certain coverages. But I'm the colorist as well on this. So because I'm the colorist, I have a very confident viewpoint on the cinematography, because I know I can save myself and I can achieve looks in post that I might have either screwed up on set or just because I have such a beautiful, clean, big, raw negative, if you will, I can achieve almost anything I want in post production. I don't think we're winning an Oscar for cinematography, but it's going to look pretty good for what we're doing. And again, we're shooting out on the Blackmagic 2.5K camera, cinema camera. I didn't even want to go 4K because the 4K was a little too much workflow for me as far as file size. I would have to get more cards. I would have to get more downloads. So for this, it's fine. 2.5 is perfectly fine. A 2K master is more than acceptable. And if I need to bump it up to 4K, my God, that means we've sold it, and we're making lots and lots of money with it.
There you go. It almost sounds as if when you have multiple actors going with the one camera, my instincts tell me that you just want to grab as many reaction shots of the other actors when the other whoever the actor is delivering the majority of the dialogue, just to cover your butt in editing, for sure. Especially if this is the style that you're going for in terms of no structured script or dialogue. It's like you got to capture and as much as you can.
And then the entire movie is going to be shot handheld.
Yeah.
So the whole movie has a handheld vibe to it. And with my rig, it's a really nice handheld. It's not like a, oh my God, I'm going to throw up handheld. It's a very just kind of subtle framing that's constantly, there's a little bit of movement to it. So It's a really nice, it's a nice energy to the piece. It gives everything a little bit more energy as opposed to just slapping it up on a pair of sticks. It liberates you. And that's the other thing. It liberates you. If I had it on sticks, that means I'm going to feel like I have to move the camera. If I have to move the camera, that means I got to get some sort of dolly system, track system, slide system, something to move the camera. And then when I start doing that, then things more complicated. I slimmed it down to the bare essentials. And that's something that any filmmaker out there listening to this has to think about when making their project, short, feature, whatever. Slim it down to what you really, really need to make this happen. I need a camera. I need lenses. I need a rig that's going to be usable, like a cage of some sort. All that kind of stuff. I'm going to actually do a full breakdown of my entire rig later on ND Film Hustle on YouTube so I can show people, because I've already been getting, after I posted that, you had no idea how many people tweeted me, emailed
video. I mean, the photo, right?
Just a photo.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, what is that? How is it? What are you shooting on? What's the rig? How are you doing it? All that kind of stuff. Because it's like, I think all of us as filmmakers are always looking like, what's the secret sauce? Like, if I just shot with that, I can get this, and I'm always looking for that too. So when I decided to start looking how I was going to shoot this, I can go right now, I can get a Red for this entire shoot for free. I can get an Alexa for free because I have friends, I have connections, I have relationships with people. I chose not to have any of those because it's too cumbersome for this project. For this kind of project, I won't be able to run it myself. There's a lot of things that come with it. And so I go, well, what's the best quality I can get, most bang for the buck I can? Not the best in the world, just the best for what I can afford. And that will make sense for the movie. And it's not even what I could afford, because I can afford, obviously, to get a Red or an Alexa through friends. But what do I need? What do I really need to get a good image? And I did testing. And when I tested the Blackmagic, I was just like blown away. And I had never really shot RAW. I've only shot ProRes with it. When I shot the RAW, I got into color. I got into my DaVinci, and I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I'm good. Like, I could create all sorts of cool stuff with this because it's such a fat negative. A lot of stops and stuff like that. And my first scene, as you saw some clips from my pitch video, was bright sunlight on white. And nothing was blown out.
Yeah.
Nothing was blown out, and it's not like all the information was there, so, and I had one light. I had one China ball, one 350 China ball. That was it. And open windows. That was my lighting scheme of the day. And I would just move the China ball in and out depending on how close or how far I was from Jilly in the scene.
Was it a daylight bulb?
Yeah. Daylight bulb 5,000. I think it's 5600K. I'm not sure. I think it's a 5600. It's a photo bulb, and it's a 24-inch China ball, and it's beautiful. And I just ordered some LED panels that put out about 600 watts of light. It costs $70. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And very well reviewed. Before I buy anything, I check 15 review sites. I check YouTube. I do a lot of research before I buy anything. That's how come I was able to buy my rig. I'll tell you what, my whole rig runs, not including the camera, which I also got on eBay cheaper than normal, but I got the whole rig, I think, with batteries and everything, under $2,000.
Wow. Yeah.
For an entire rig with
Yeah.
a support bowl, so I could put it around my waist and last all day. I lasted 6 hours and I didn't really I felt a little bit sore, but nothing like if I was really hand holding it the whole damn time.
Right. Now, knowing you, it's, just making the movie is not enough. Like, what are you planning for the release, marketing? What are the nitty gritty details of sort of how you're taking this film to the next level in terms of, online presence and online marketing?
I only plan to show it to you guys, and I wasn't even thinking about money.
That sir is not Alex Ferrari.
I have no idea about what you talk about marketing. I'm just going to put it to some festivals and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Most filmmakers do that.
That's
finish
exactly
a
what most
film.
filmmakers do.
Okay, let's get into what are the things that we see on a common basis that are just, I don't know, glowing mistakes that filmmakers make regularly in terms of marketing and just all that kind of stuff.
All right. So first and foremost, I've never made a feature film before, so it's brand new to me. The whole workflow, as far as marketing, prepping it, everything like that. In my olden days, when I did my first short films, I made so much material. I had literally broken my first short film. Had so much material, we released a book. We literally released a book on Amazon on the making of it, pictures, scripts, story. I mean, I literally had about 150 pages worth of artwork designed for. I mean, I built this thing to such a monumental scale, and it was a little $8,000 short film. That mentality is something that works for that kind of movie. For this movie, I'm taking a little bit different approach. But first, before I get into my approach with this, first things, most filmmakers don't ever think about marketing. They don't ever think about how they're going to sell it. They don't ever think about how they're going to promote it or how they're even going to get the word out on it. They have no idea. None whatsoever. I've finished over 50 movies in my day, meaning feature films that I've either color graded, post-production, supervised, edited, or colored. And it's blaring to me, and it's so sad to see. It was one of the reasons why I opened up Indie Film Hustle, because I kept seeing filmmakers come through the door, spend sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes even millions of dollars with A-list cast, have no idea what they're going to do with it. None whatsoever. They just try to go down the pipeline of traditional stuff, and they just had no idea how to do anything.
They're so focused on just finishing it
because it was a monumental task. Yeah. And again, that's the whole process of the monumental task of making a movie. When you need to have this, you need to have this crew member, you need to have this thing and this thing and this thing, and a lot of times you don't. And again, it all depends on the story you're trying to tell. If I was telling an action movie, this might not work as well. This storyline, this way of that I'm shooting it. But I've designed this movie specifically. My next movie is designed this way as well. I have probably, and that one's it's a level up, and then the next one after that is another level up. Meaning I'll probably need more people, a little bit more money to make certain things happen till I get to the fourth one. Or the fifth one that's going to be much bigger, where there's going to be, I have to go to fly out and locations and things like that. But I'm doing it in steps, and I'm not trying, and not one of these movies I'm throwing all the weight of my entire career on. I'm just making the work. I'm just doing the art. I'm creating the art and doing the work.
So why wouldn't you just finish it and enter it into film festivals and see what happens?
Well, because I know you laugh because you and I both.
I know what you're going to say, but I'm just curious. I was like, I'm going to ask you that. Why wouldn't you just do that? Because that is really the only plan that most filmmakers we know or out there, they finish something, they want to get into some film festivals and see what happens. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
Because you leave the control of your movie to an unknown entity, and it's unquantifiable. It's uncontrollable. You can't control what Sundance, Slam Dance, Tribeca, South by Southwest, Austin, any festivals are going to do. You might be a festival darling. You might never get a festival screening because your movie doesn't fit in there. And there's a whole course on this that me and Chris Holland from Film Festival Secrets created just specifically about film festivals and the entire process of film festivals, about submitting and so on. So there's you're leaving your destiny up to somebody else. And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm the kind of guy that likes to have control of his own destiny. And that's why I've been working for myself for pretty much the last 20 years, because I like to control what I don't want somebody else telling me what I can and cannot do, especially with my art. And I'm not going to leave it up to somebody else. Hey, don't get me wrong. When This Is Meg is over, it's going straight to Sundance. And there's a reason why I started shooting it now, because I'm prepping it for Sundance, because I'm like one of every other filmmaker out there making their movie. I'm going to submit it to Sundance. I'm going to submit it to Slam Dance. I'm going to submit it to Cannes. I'm going to submit it to Toronto's too late, but to South by Southwest, to Tribeca. I'm going to submit it to all of them. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Because I think this movie makes sense for those festivals. And there's a chance that it could get picked up because of many different reasons. But when you as a filmmaker just make a movie, finish it, and submit it to festivals and hope and pray, man, you're taking such a huge risk, because you're risking all those people's money that vested in your movie. If you're independently wealthy, go, God, knock yourself out, do whatever the hell you want. If you've crowdfunded your entire movie and you don't really care about how much money it makes, fine, do it, whatever you want. But if you're like most of the rest of us, and even if you crowdfund the movie, you still want to make money with the movie, because a movie that doesn't make money is not going to get you a job later, if that's your goal. If your goal is to become a working filmmaker. If your goal is just to create art and put it out there, then my God, go for it.
So how do you mitigate the risks? How do you take more control in your hands?
You create an audience. You create an audience is something that you preach out from the top of the hills all the time. You've got to create an audience. You have to, and that takes time, guys. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, the audience I've built up with Indie Film Hustle, it's taken me obscene amounts of time, and obscene amounts of energy to do so. And that's my audience. My audience is the Indie Filmmaking Hustle audience, my tribe, that I'm hoping will support what I'm doing. And at the end of I'll talk to you guys later about what I'm doing for filmmakers as well with This Is Meg. But that's my audience. So I'm hoping that will happen. And I've actually created an audience based around a brand and myself, because the brand is associated with me so closely that it's both of us, as opposed to creating a following based on a movie. Because when you do a movie, it's at the end of that road, what do you do with that audience? How about if you make a comedy first and the next movie is a horror movie? Well, that audience might not want to travel with you. But if you build an audience around yourself as a filmmaker, or a production company, or a brand of some sort, then that company or that those fans will follow you project to project to project, and go from there. So that's step one, is to create that audience. Step two is start engaging with that audience and start building this audience up in a way that when you're ready to make a movie, that you can start asking them for help with it. But you don't just ask for help. You have to give something back. And that's one of the biggest mistakes filmmakers make, especially with crowdfunding, which is something I'm hoping not to do with my crowdfunding, is like, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, but you're not giving any value for that. The whole I'm a starving filmmaker thing, no one gives a crap. Mm-hmm. You know, that was cool like 10 years ago when there was 5 guys doing it. Now our inboxes in our Twitter feeds and our Facebook feeds are constantly being jammed up with support my crowdfunding campaign, support my crowdfunding campaign. So, you know, what I'm hoping to do with this one is to provide a tremendous amount of value for that support. And that's what I'll be doing.
Let me ask you, why doesn't it work when we see it all the time on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it might be? That's just simply, we see a link that says, check out my crowdfunding campaign. Here's the link.
Jesus. Yeah.
Or if they finish the film, check out my film. There's a link. Or give me a like and I'll like yours back. Like,
Yeah,
okay, why does that stuff not work?
Because it doesn't. Because it. I mean.
No, I want to get into I want us to dig
psychology?
deeper in the psychology why that doesn't work.
So which one first?
Either one. Like if we see that, because we see it all the the we see.
Okay, so please support my campaign.
Yeah, this is the campaign one.
Okay, so basic social media 101. I'm going to give you a huge, monstrous tip here. So everyone listening, pay attention. If you're in a room, if I'm in a room with Scott, and I've never met Scott in my life, and I walk up to Scott in that room and go, Scott, give me money for my movie. That's exactly the same as you saying, hey, support my movie. You've built no relationship with me and you're providing no value to me. Now, same scenario. I go to Scott. I start talking to Scott. And I go, Scott, how are you doing? What are you doing here? What's going on? And slowly but surely by building a relationship, which could be in the course of the conversation, or it could be in a course of months, of weeks of phone calls, or we start building a friendship. We start building a relationship to the point where now in that relationship, I've provided value to you in one way, shape, or form. When I go to Scott and I go, Scott, man, we're friends. I'm doing this movie. Can you help me out? That's a very different conversation than, hey, Scott, I've never met you before. Give me some money. So there's that personal relationship. And then there's also the I provide value relationship, meaning I'll give you value. And then I'll ask. So it's the whole Gary Vaynerchuk jab.
3 jabs, 1 right hook.
Yeah, jab, right hook.
Yeah.
Jab, right hook, which means jab is free value. And then you go right hook means you ask for something. And that's basically what it is. If any filmmaker out there should go read Jab, Right Hook. Jab, Right Hook. It's a great book about this specific thing. And that's social media 101. That's why social media accounts who are constantly just tweeting out the same crap don't grow. You have to provide value. You have to create something that they want, whether that be humor. You could be the funny dude. You could be bringing a smile to their face. I watch Screen Junkies on YouTube religiously every week because they do a show called Honest Trailers. And anyone who hasn't seen it, you have to go to. And I don't know them. They don't know me. But I absolutely love Screen Junkies because I go every week and I see what movie they've spoofed in their trailers. And they're hilarious. They provide value to me every week by entertaining me. So that could be something you could do, whether that be through little funny posts, through memes, through inspirational quotes. It could be a million different ways, but you have to provide some sort of value, and it has to be a heartfelt value. So that's why things like I like you, you like me back. It's kind of like, really, dude, like I don't even know you, and you're asking me to do like scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's again something you do with a different relationship, like if it's a friend, like, hey, dude, I'll hook you up if you hook me up. That's a different scenario, but you can't do that right up front. It's like asking a girl to sleep with her before you've even gone out on a date. You don't do that. You got to wine and dine before you ask that question.
So it's always, there's give, and then you can ask.
Yeah.
And so the other things that you mentioned, like Screen Junkies, they provide value. It's funny and it's quality, content. So if somebody had like I did an interview, which I have to still release the podcast episode, but they did like a family film about dogs and animals and stuff like that. So they're going
to be huge, by the way. That's going to make millions of dollars. I'm not joking. Like I've been told everybody, like, you want to make money in the movies business? Make movies about dogs and family movies about dogs.
There you go.
That's it. No, you make family movies about dogs, sold.
So before they even make it, if they had on like Facebook or Instagram, they're just sharing cute pictures of dogs and puppies.
Done.
So it's give, and then say you can give the ask, like, hey, we're actually making our own movie, a family movie about a dog. Would you please say, we encourage you to take a look at this link. Yeah. That way it's like, oh, I've seen this person. I like this person. Every time they share something, yeah, I'll take a link. I'll take a look. So that's what you're saying about give, and then ask. So anyway, please.
But also, with all this said, Scott, and this is something I want to really impress upon the audience. The everything that I talk about, everything I talk about on Indie Film Hustle, everything you talk about building your audience and things like that, this works up to a certain level. So in other words, unless your audience is at a massive level like a Tim Ferriss or a Pat Flynn or one of these big internet marketing guys, or Gary Vaynerchuk, who has millions of followers, your followers will be based about how much money you can raise or how many things you can sell as far as selling your movie is concerned. So if you've got 2,000 people on Twitter and you have a $500,000 budget film, this is not going to work with you. It's not. This concept will not work. You will not make your money back. It's not feasible at that point. You have to have an audience big enough to support the kind of project or product that you're trying to sell. So with me, I'm making a very, let's call it under $100,000 movie that it's something that's doable in this marketplace. So as a distribution plan for me is we're going to make our movie. We're going to submit it to some film festivals. We're going to submit it to some film festivals, and we're also going to start seeing how that track works. We'll reach out to a few distributors that we know, see how that track works. And then we'll also start distributing it ourselves, leveraging hopefully some film festival screenings and selling it ourselves. And the way we're packaging it all up, hopefully we'll be able to make our money back, and not only make our money back, but make hopefully a profit, and be successful. So if I can make 3 or 4 times my money, if I can make double my money, I'd be ecstatic. That means we've succeeded. If you can make your money back as a filmmaker, you succeeded, but that's not sustainable. It's about hopefully doubling or tripling your money, if not onward and upward. I've been able to monetize my short film Broken for 10 years, and I'm still monetizing it, and it's a little short film. So that's that plan. Go ahead, sir.
I was going to ask you with Meg. So what is This Is Meg, the movie This Is Meg? What do you have in store for, value, that you're going to give more value? So everything that we just talked about, how are you applying this to this next movie of yours?
Well, This Is Meg, I'm going to do something that I haven't seen before. And I'm sure it exists out there, but not in today's world, where I'm going to give the audience or the members of this membership site. We've created a membership site called the Indie Film Syndicate, which is an access to not only about 40 hours of online filmmaking courses and marketing courses and social media courses and the film festival courses and all this kind of stuff, but you'll also have a window into the making of This Is Meg, and not as a passive behind the scenes kind of DVD extra bullshit. Sorry, didn't mean to curse.
It's okay.
But
I'm that kind of a podcast.
Oh, you're Rosser. Sorry. You are threatening. No. Your threatening image just threw me off.
I threw you off. We were talking about the Indie Film Syndicate. What is this membership?
So the membership, you're going to get a window into the making of This Is Meg, and you're going to be able to, I'm going to try to be doing a once a month, if not more, webinar explaining to everybody where I'm at in the process of where we're making the movie at that time. So it's going to go through all the way through how to create an LLC to how we're selling it. And we're going to go through the whole process. This is a year, at least, if not longer, of this entire process. And after this movie is done and we start going into the film festival, I'm already prepping the next movie and getting that set up, because I'm not going to sit around for 2 years waiting for something to happen with This Is Meg. I'm going to make my next movie while I'm marketing and selling this one and building that community. So once I have people involved in the Indie Film Syndicate, I know I would be, as a filmmaker, be extremely interested in watching someone make a micro budget film, with a very minimal crew meaning me and the boom operator, and see how they actually do it and see the whole process. And that's something I would pay money to see. And it's very affordable. Right now we're going to come out at $17 for a month and $185 for the year. And if you donate to our crowdfunding campaign, which is out June 21st, you'll get special deals. Like I forgot the exact incentive, but it's like if you spend $150, you'll get a full year as opposed to $185 plus a whole bunch of other extras, and you'll get certain amount of months access for free included it with a donation. So it's a better deal than if you just bought it directly from the site to help raise money, because all the money that we make from the Indie Film Syndicate we're going to be putting towards making the movie, and making the best movie we can. So we're coming out with a $15,000 ask right now, which is extremely minimal for production. And we might come back out for post. I know I own a post-production company, but I don't own an audio facility. So we need good audio. We have a good composer and things like that. But I'm creating that value for the audience. I'm creating a window into something that most filmmakers would kill to see. I would kill to see that. So I'm hoping that other filmmakers will be interested to see not just the making of it, the technical making of it, the marketing of it, the explanation of the mentality of why I had a photo shoot for the poster before I ever had the script finished. That's my mind.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's not a movie until it's a poster. That's my mentality. And now because of that imagery that I was able to create, now the film is being taken a little bit more seriously because, there's a poster. It's so weird, but it's psychological because you associate a movie poster with a finished movie. So when you have a movie poster at the beginning of a process, people start taking it a little bit more. Like, this seems like it's going to happen because there's a poster, which is BS in a lot of ways because you can spend money to make a poster and the movie will never get made. There's many of that over the years, but for me, for what I'm doing, it makes sense, and it's always made sense for all my projects. I've always had movie posters before the movie was ever even finished. So that's how I providing value.
Yeah, a lot of filmmakers probably, the worst, like here's some worst mistakes for, developing posters is grabbing like frame grabs from the actual movie.
Yeah.
It looks terrible. It looks cheap.
Yep.
I mean, if it's, let's say that it can't always be that way, but most of the time, I think like 95% of the time it works that way. Most of the time, doing it properly, you do have a separate photo shoot for the design of the poster. I don't know your experience. Is that what you've seen yourself?
Oh yeah, I've seen. Oh God, the posters I've seen in my life are just oh my God, just horrendous stuff. And you have to understand that the world out there is going to look at your movie through your poster and your trailer. Those are the two things. Those are the two fishing lines. The things that people will look at for your movie and check to see if it's even worth their time to look at is the trailer and the poster. If those two things don't look polished, you'll lose 90% of your audience right away because there's just too much noise out there. So that's a big distinguishing factor. So like I get constantly emailed and messaged posters and movies to promote. And when I look at the first thing I always look at, I'm like, if they send me a poster, I'm like, nope, not even gonna look at it. If they didn't take the time to make a good poster, I'm not gonna look at it. Because generally speaking, if you didn't take time to make a good poster, that means you're not taking the whole craft seriously, in my opinion. Because even the best Academy Award, Sundance winning movies, they all had a decent poster. And it doesn't have to be a huge, monstrous thing. I mean, I know of a movie that won Sundance that took a still screen from their movie, and it worked. So, but it was perfect. It was a perfect scenario. Would I use that for a theatrical release? No, but it looked professional. It looked like a designer did it. And you could always go to like 99designs.com or a million different places to have a designer design your movie poster for you.
Yeah.
And
or go to Jason Buff at Indie Film Academy. He does
Jason Buff over at Indie Film Academy. He's awesome. I've seen some of his posters. They're great. And they could do it, and you can get them done fairly inexpensively. Very inexpensive. I mean, considering speaking. And by the way, when I say photo shoot, it sounds really impressive. But basically, it was me, Jilly, in the back room of my office where I threw up a couple of lights and I had a wooden background. And she came dressed. And she did her own makeup.
Sorry.
I'm glad she
came dressed.
You know what I mean? Dressed for the photo shoot, you sick perverted. No, she came camera ready, as they say.
There you go, camera ready.
She came camera ready. I didn't know I was in National Lampoon's film trooper. And I took pictures with my Canon TSI, like that's like a 8-year-old DSLR camera.
TSI? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's like I got it when I first got out to LA, so it was like 8 years old, and I shot with that, and boom, and then I sent it over to my buddy who's a designer, and he cleaned it up for me, and it looked it came out with the poster, and you'll have a poster in the show notes if you want to show people what
please.
the final poster looks like. So that was the idea with the poster, man. But I wish I could cut a trailer, but I don't have footage. So,
but I know that we saw the first first cut of the crowdfunding pitch videos, which looks good.
Yes.
So that gives everybody an indicator on what to expect. So we're at the hour mark. Is there anything I'm missing?
I could talk for hours.
I know you can. I know. I had to split up our first podcast episode in 2 parts because it was so lengthy of information.
Oh, it's fine. I don't mind.
But I have to.
You have a life. I understand.
I do have a life. I have. It's officially summertime up here, and I promised my daughter I'd take her someplace. And in Portland, it's summer when you're blinded by the sun, but it's raining. But it's raining at the same time. I've never been to a place where I've been blinded by the sunlight and also been dumped on by rain. So
that would be Miami. That's Miami. That's Miami, sir. All the time.
So before we leave, I'm just curious, like, is there any other like common things or common mistakes we see from filmmakers in, when they're trying to get their film made through crowdfunding, or when they finished it and they're putting it out, up online, that would just like cringeworthy, like, oh my gosh, why does everyone still make these mistakes? I think we cover most of it, but if I'm missing something, let me know. Or any last, thoughts.
Yeah, I think the big thing with crowdfunding is I chose seedandspark.com as my crowdfunding platform as opposed to Kickstarter or Indiegogo. The major reasoning why is they I think have
it's like 78%, 82%?
78 to 82% success rate.
Yeah.
So the people who are on the site already are fans of film. That's all they do is film. They don't do anything else. They don't do the new pen that transforms into a robot that makes your coffee. They don't do any of that stuff. While Kickstarter and Indiegogo's campaigns for film are more like the 30% or 40% world, if that. So I chose Seed and Spark because of that, and they have a very unique platform as opposed to getting wish list stuff, as opposed to like people could donate houses and gear and food and all that kind of stuff to the process. So it's unique in that sense, much more than Kickstarter or Indiegogo. So I've never gone through a full campaign myself. I'm going to launch it on the 21st. You guys saw the first video. You had some notes for me, which I am addressing, and we're gonna send it out and see what happens. I'm going to. I have no idea.
Now I know you in terms of like when you say like, we're going to send it out and see what happens. But no, I know you because you will be like, I will send it out, see what happens, and the reaction and the feedback we get, I will make adjustments.
Oh, God.
That's the difference of like somebody like, oh, we made a film, we're going to throw it up and see the film festivals and see what happens. And that's all they have. Like there's no like plan after that to adjust to the feedback they get. Like if they get like nothing happens, then they actually just nothing happens. I've seen so many filmmakers just stop at a point where it didn't go to plan. Like the golden, the red carpet wasn't laid out for them. Everything like that didn't happen, and they just sort of stop, and they don't know where to go next. But I know you, and like whatever happens is your indicator of how to adjust, pivot to make the next move. So
there's no question. I've been, running indiefilmhustle.com. I've learned that technique and that skill very well, is to pivot and learn. And I'm constantly looking at analytics and what's working and what doesn't work. And when something works, I double, triple, and quadruple down on it, as you know. And when things don't work, I don't do it again. So this won't be any different. I'll see what works. I'll see what doesn't. I'm hoping that my angle of the Indie Film Syndicate will entice my audience to help, because it's obscene amounts of value. Like, it's so ridiculous the amount of value it is. Even if I didn't do them, This Is Meg stuff, I mean, you're getting access to 40 hours or so of online filmmaking courses, as well as a private group where you can talk and network with other filmmakers, as well as doing webinars once a month where you can ask me questions, things like that. It's an immense amount of value for very little money. So I think adding that, plus being able to be a fly on the wall of a micro budget film in today's world with today's technology is, I mean, like I said, I'd pay $17 a month for that. I'd probably just buy the year off that because I would like to see the whole process. I'd like to see the whole thing and see what you learn, and you're going to see warts and all what happens. Like, I should be scared to death, Scott. I really should be. I should be absolutely scared to death, but I'm not, and it's weird.
You shouldn't. I made a film without a crew. A feature film without a crew.
Same here.
You know,
that's where I'm at now.
So you'll be fine, and it's liberating, and actually unleashes stuff that in you that you didn't think was there. Like you start seeing things so from a different perspective that it's exciting. So I'm excited for you, and I'm excited because I know you. So I definitely encourage people to check out Indie Film Hustle, as well as go to sign up for the Indie Film Syndicate membership, because like you said, there's gonna be a lot of value basically gonna be available to everybody. So I'll be there. I'll be in the community. So we'll see.
I know. I appreciate it, man. Like I said, man, it's really, like I said at the beginning of this, man, it's the second I took away all those limitations and those obstacles, it opened up so much that I can't even explain to you how insane it is, to the point now where just things are just kind of flowing. I'm just kind of moving along, and it's weird. And like, it's the weirdest feeling as a filmmaker to not feel this kind of pressure, not to feel like, let's just do it. But I'm not doing it in a way that is haphazard. It's very strategic in the sense I'm doing it. Like, I know where this is going. I have a clear plan. I'm not just completely shooting from the hip, but the process it's within a structure. Mm-hmm. There's an outline to the entire madness. It's organized chaos. It's what it is. It's organized chaos all the way to final output distribution of the movie. And I'm learning as I go, but it's just shifting. I'm constantly shifting things. So like, the first shoot, I had my China ball. I'm like, okay, well, would it be nice to have a little bit more light in these outside scenes? Okay, well, let's go look for that. Boom. Oh, and I need to get a sound guy. I'm like, I'll use this mic and all this kind of stuff, And it does help that I'm doing a lot of my own. I mean, I don't even know how I'm going to put the credits on. I do have, by the way, if anybody ever wants to look up, I do have 2 aliases I use on projects sometimes, because I do so many jobs on my films and on other people's films, to the point where I created 2 aliases which have IMDb credits, which is, I submitted them to IMDb. So if you ever look up Mongo Wilder, Mongo Wilder is a colorist, an occasional post-production supervisor. And then my steady post-production supervisor is Jalapeno Humperdinck.
No way. Are you serious?
Look up Jalapeno Humperdinck on IMDb, and you will see my movies attached to his credits, and actually a few other ones that are not my movies, because it just got stupid after a while to just see the same name again and again and again. And again. And so I just kind of started making up names, and then it kind of stuck now. So those are my aliases for anybody interested to see if, like, did he really get that up on IMDb? Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Was it the Coen brothers, right? They edit their movies under alias, don't they?
I had no idea that Steven Soderbergh shot all of his movies.
Yeah.
He has an alias for that.
Right.
And the Coen brothers edit all their movies, and it's different editing. There's a different different name that edits all those movies. So it's just, it's just the way they roll, and I'm hoping to go down that path. That would be great.
Awesome. So is anything else, any last minute sort of, stuff you want, or just send everybody to Indie Film Hustle, and there'll be enough stuff, indiefilmhustle.com, so they can find out more information, or thisismeg.com is the film, right?
Yeah, so this is where the plugs come in.
Okay, give us the plugs. We wrap it up.
So, we'll wrap it up because you got to go out with your daughter. We've got indiefilmhustle.com, which is the hub for everything. If you go to indiefilmhustle.com, you will find information on everything else you need. I also have film schools there, online courses, and all that other stuff. Then we have indiefilmsyndicate.com, which will take you directly to the Indie Film Syndicate membership site, where you can sign up directly if you like to the Indie Film Syndicate, and that's going to be ongoing. So anytime there's a new course created by Indie Film Hustle, or I create partnerships with other courses, other instructors, which I'm actually bringing in like previews of these other courses, so you can add more content to the site and more value to the members. I'll be doing that as well. And then there is the thisismeg.com. Thisismeg.com will be during the campaign directly aimed at Seed and Sparks campaign page, where you can be a backer, and we really greatly appreciate it. And if you want to come on the ride to see how we either make it or screw this up, it's going to be entertaining either way. And then after that, thisismeg.com will go to the thisismeg.com website, an actual official website for the movie. And we are on Twitter, This Is Meg Film, at This Is Meg Film. And I think on Facebook, I will create it at This Is Meg Film. But if you type This Is Meg, it should come up.
Nice.
I think that's enough of the plugging. I'm good. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show, Scott. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's so funny as us talking, because we talk every week.
Weekly.
This is weekly,
Yeah,
so it's like weird. It's like, oh yeah, recording now. Okay, fine. I think when we started, you're like, are we starting right now? Yeah, we're starting. Fine.
All right.
You were asking me for an intro. You're like, wait, don't you do an intro? I go, I do the intro later.
It's just how you roll, Scott.
And then I do an outro later too. All right,
and
my
by
friend.
by the way, everybody listening, Scott is a gem of not only of a man, but of a website. And what he does it with so much heart. But I'm telling you something that you guys already know, because if you're listening to Film Trooper, you know that Scott is like one of the best in the business. So I love him, and I love being on the show. And God bless you all, you Film Troopers.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Cool. And that concludes my interview with Alex Ferrari of Indie Film Hustle and his new film, This Is Meg, at thisismeg.com. And Alex is too funny. He reminds me of like Vince Vaughn. I don't know if you've ever heard the story where Jon Favreau had this show called like Dinner for Five, where he brought in filmmakers and actors, and he would just sit and eat, meals and smoke cigars, and in this roundtable forum, just talk about film and film stories. And he had Timothy Oliphant on, and they were sharing this story about the premiere of Go. Since the movie Go was directed by Doug Liman, who also directed Swingers, that gave the fame to Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. Anyhow, at the premiere, I guess it was like Vince Vaughn was talking to Timothy Oliphant, saying essentially like, no, my friend, tonight is your night. Baby, it's your night tonight. Your night. What are you drinking? What are you drinking? I'll take care of you. So he was taking care of Timothy that way, and he left to go get him a drink and never returned. So that's just sort of Vince Vaughn's way of, screwing with, just screwing with people. And actually, speaking of Swingers and Doug Liman, I always love this story, because what people think is that Swingers was Jon Favreau's first film, as well as Doug Liman. And, Doug Liman went on to do Go, and then he created the Bourne Identity series. He did Mr. and Mrs. Smith. He did that Tom Cruise movie, the sci-fi one where they go back in time. He relives a day, Groundhog Day, over and over. It's hard because that Edge of Tomorrow, I think it was. But the funny thing is the poster kept saying not Edge of Tomorrow. The poster would read Live, Die, Repeat. So I don't know what the name of the movie is. Anyhow, the interesting thing about that is that Doug Liman apparently had a feature film that he had made already that wasn't very good, and he never showed it to anybody. It never went anywhere. So when he approached Jon Favreau and said, look, I can raise $250,000 to make this movie Swingers. However, instead of trying to make the $250 look like $1 million movie, which a lot of films back then try to do, and they always fall short just because they just never quite had the resources. So something always felt off when somebody watched it. So his concept was to go opposite. He'll take the $250,000 that he could raise. I think he got the money through his dad and so on. However, he took that money and he told Jon Favreau, but let's try to make it look like a $25,000 film. And this is on the heels of Kevin Smith's Clerks, which was made for reportedly $25,000. So the idea is that if you have enough money, if you have like $250,000, but you're trying to make it look like a $25,000 film, then you have the latitude, you have the resources to go to Vegas, to film in Vegas, to shoot bigger party scenes, to do all these types of things. But the grid of it makes it look like a $25,000 film, and it sort of works in your favor. And that's something to think about if you are, approaching your micro budget film. Maybe you want it to look like a film that was shot for $5,000, but maybe you have more money, but that extra money allows all these other things you can do with it. Anyhow, it's just a thought, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. And of course, you probably know about Alex already, but if you haven't, please go check out Indie Film Hustle. He really puts the hustle in everything he does, and I'm sure This Is Meg is going to be another interesting and successful film project moving forward. But as always, before you leave, I don't want you to go away empty-handed. If you are stuck trying to make your film right now, then I invite you to go to freegearguide.com to pick up an equipment list of everything that I use to make a feature film for $500 without a crew. Talk about micro budget. Talk about filmmaking freedom. There's the freedom not to have to worry about anybody stopping you from doing what you want to do, which is to make a film, even if you don't have a crew. Again, that's at freegearguide.com. It's my free gift to you. And again, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to this episode of the Film Trooper Podcast. And I will see you next time.
Film Trooper, filmmaking freedom for the independent.